Hey everyone, today I wanted to come at you with a Flail Void Gauntlet build that I've been running a lot lately. Been doing both high mutations and um, OPRs, arenas, and stuff like that with it. So I just wanted to show you what I'm doing, and yeah, let's get into it. So to start off, we're running Flail Void Gauntlet. Our primary artifact is Life Taker. Uh, really good Void Gauntlet. It gives you Disintegrate. Its main perk is Disintegrate on ranged attacks, which I'll get into a little bit later. That doesn't just mean auto attacks; it's any ranged attack that you hit the target with. Comes with Keen, Life Stealing, Refreshing Move, all great perks. Although we don't really care too much about these. The main one that I upgraded it for is Slowing Tether. Super important in the build. This is how you catch people. This is how you get up to them. That's that 42% 3 seconds slow. Super strong, and then it also um, inflicts Disintegrate every single second while it's active. So it's active for 10 seconds, so you pretty much just have permanent uptime on Disintegrate, which, for those who don't know, Disintegrate is this perk right here. If you read on the Void Blade, inflicts a stack of Disintegrate on successful hits, dealing 5% weapon damage per second and reducing target's armor by 10% for 8 seconds. So 30% rend, 5% weapon damage per second, very strong. After that, we have ourselves a Flail. I'll go over the build for that in a second. But basically, I prefer to have Blessed and Keenly Jagged. If I can get rid of Keen and pick up Refreshing, that would be the best setup for this weapon. You could also swap out Keenly Jagged for Keen and Power, but I have Keen and Power on my shield. But I would highly recommend you get both Keen and Power and Keen Jagged. It just gives you a lot of extra damage whenever you crit. This build doesn't crit a lot, but it doesn't stack crit specifically, but you have a lot of attacks going out. You have a very high, damage per second kind of a ratio with this build, so you end up keeping those up very, very, a lot. Okay, so the gear. As you might notice, we are running Featherweight. That is our body artifact. It is weightless. It literally has a 0 equip weight, which allows us to do some interesting things with our other pieces. I don't have it upgraded at the moment. When I do get it upgraded, I'm waiting until I can get this tune up to track 20 to start getting the health perks. We're going to put health on this just so I can use it with multiple builds, but health is probably what I want on this. So because we're running the Featherweight, we can run a medium headpiece. Right now I'm running Arcane Harnessing, Refreshing Health. That's what most of my pieces are going for. Although once you hit 4 Refreshing, you should drop Refreshing and try and pick up Enchanted Ward into those pieces, or weapon perks if you can. So we'll go down to our gloves. These are just kind of throwaway gloves just to get the eye level up at the moment, or the gear score up at the moment. They have Vigor, Ellie Version, and Luck. It's not great, it's a 2-perker essentially, but it's there because it's 700. Again, this should be something along the lines of Health, Enchanted Ward, Weapon perk, or something along those lines, and then the other perk should be Arcane Damage. And then we come down to our pants, we have Arcane Harnessing, Refreshing Health. And then our boots, we have Arcane Harnessing, Refreshing Health. Our shield, I should notify that the legs need to be light, and the chest is featherweight, and that allows you to run medium head, medium gloves, medium boots, with a round shield, and still be light equip load. That's pretty big. We need light equip load for that extra outgoing healing. This build is putting out a lot of healing. Not as much as a life staff, but a significant portion of my abilities do provide healing. Right now we have Cannon. I would probably switch this out for Stormform when I get access to it. This is a newer tune, so I don't have all the heart runes or upgraded, but Cannon is nice. If targets are running away, you can just get that execute on them if you can land it. Our necklace is Healthy, Shirking, Debilitating, Cleanse, Thrust Protection. Once I have my ability to upgrade this, I will be swapping out Shirking, Debilitating, Cleanse for Divine, and it will be Health, Divine, Thrust Protection on the necklace. This ring, I keep going over it. I would consider this to be BIS for this build, honestly, because, well, first things, both the Void Gauntlet, Life Taker deals strike damage, and the Flail deals strike damage. So, you have the ability to double up on strike damage, which is fantastic. And this is more of a damage build than a heal build, so I think Strike Protection is better, but the other perk that you could run instead of Strike Protection would be Sacred, for the extra healing output. As your call. Like I said, I prefer Strike Damage, Hardy, and Healing Breeze. Healing Breeze is an absolutely amazing perk. I have tested it many times. It is a 10-second cooldown for every single target, an individual target. So like it'll be 10 seconds for me, 10 seconds for every other person. So when you shoot out an orb, right? When it comes back, every person hit by orb also gets Healing Breeze at the same time, and I do as well. Absolutely amazing perk. It ends up dealing 20% weapon damage per second, so it's 120% of your weapon damage and scales with the focus passives and the light armor passives. This thing ends up ticking for 300 health per second, 250 to 300 depending on the situation. Well, whereas orbs usually tick in for around 600, so it's around 800 health per second just from an orb, which is really strong in my opinion. And then for our earring, we just have a generic refreshing toast nimble. Again, you don't really need more than 4 refreshing perks, so you could drop refreshing for pretty much any other perk. I do think refreshing toast and nimble are kind of mandatory for this build. We're in light. We don't have the best mobility compared to other light users like Great Axe and stuff like that who have the ability to chase down targets. So having that extra 10% stamina regen just means we can dodge more, which means we can either get out of bad situations or get into good, chase down targets, stuff like that. You could run healthy if you want instead of nimble, but I think nimble's pretty much best for this build. Consumables are pretty standard, just whatever you would run for OPR or anything else like that. I like Carrot Cake because it's cheap, gives you the strength, gives you the con. So let's go into the stats. Alright, right now we are set up incorrectly. Actually, we gotta eat our food. Hold up. There we go. So this is what we're running for arenas and OPR and stuff like that at the moment, just because we need the constitution, we need the extra health pool to stay alive. And due to how Magnify works, we can't run the way we want to run due to the Magnify and our perks at the moment. Eventually, we'll work on this in the future, but we have 100 strength. This is here for the flail, specifically for the 10% physical damage passive. It scales both our Void Gauntlet and our flail. They both deal physical strike damage, so fantastic. And then the strength person only scales the flail. The focus 250 perk. Whenever you kill or an ally kills something, you get a healing stack. It's pretty nice. It just kind of if your group's going on a murder spree, it's nice to have. It's not huge. We give up the 300 perk, which I would like to have. In an ideal world, this would be 300 focus and 200 con. Like I said, Magnify is preventing me for that at the moment, but we'll change it up when we get the gear for it. And then our con goes to 250 at the moment. Main thing you want out of this is the 200 con perk for the extra physical and elemental armor. Due to running featherweight with the extra pieces, we end up with around 1,155 armor, as you can see, and this gets scaled up by Fortify. Alright, let's go into the weapon build. The weapon perks. So we're running Flail. This is our primary Flail build. The abilities are, we're running Arcane Smite, we're running Arcane Vortex, and Barrage. And I think that these are probably the best abilities that you're going to be able to get on Flail at the moment. I've messed around with Arcane Eruption a lot. On paper, it deals more damage and gives more impairment and healing and all that. In practice, this ability doesn't track well, and it doesn't have any range at all. You have to be in exact on top of your target to land it. It's a pain in the butt to use. I would not recommend this ability for anything other than maybe mutations. But even then, the utility coming out of Arcane Smite, the massive amounts of weaken we get, Arcane Smite just outperforms it in pretty much all situations for what I'm looking for the build to do. We don't take oppressive advantage. I've played around with it a little bit. It ends up being annoying because it requires the target to have less than 50% health, and by that point you're typically low too. It's hard to stack. I don't personally like it. Spiky Impairment, again, not something we really need. We're very rarely going to be sitting at above 90% health in this build. We are quite squishy as we're in light. And then the Exhaust. I didn't really have the points for this. It would be nice, but I didn't have the points I want to put here. What we do pick up, we'll start up here. We pick up Weighted Superiority because we're in light. We get 1% cooldown reduction when hitting a target with a 1 second cooldown. Super nice, just built-in refreshing. We get the Vital Embrace. This has two sides of it, gives a little bit of life leech and below 50% health, but the main reason you want this is to extend the duration of your damage over time effects. Really strong in PvE. PvP has some uses, but it's not crazy, it's just nice to have. And then Leader of the Pack, super good, 10% empower to yourself, or 5% empower to everybody around you. Super nice. It's similar to the Sword and Shield passive. Not quite as good, but it's nice. I like it. Our ability again is Barrage. We picked up all the passives on this. Failure to launch is actually pretty nice because it gives extra fortify. So you get 20% fortify when you land on somebody, but also you get where is it? To this one? Hitting a target with Barrage inflicts will grant 30% fortify as well, and these stack up, right? So if you rush through a group of people, you can get 8 seconds of 30% fortify, and then if you land on somebody with the final attack, you get another 20% for 8 seconds. So you can end up with 50% fortify right there, which is super, super nice. Picked up Cured Flailment. It's pretty nice. Every time you cast an ability, your next heavy attack will remove a debuff from yourself, and it will inflict impairment. Mostly there for PvE, although it has uses in PvP too if you can land the heavies. And then the other option you could go, you could change this out for PvP for Vital Suppressant. While above 50% health, reduce your damage taken by 4%. That is also strong. So it's a toss-up. You could go for either one of these. It's personal preference. This ability I think is really nice. Increases your max health by 25% of your physical armor while the flail's equipped, irregardless of what bar you have active. So it's just always up 100% of the time, extra 25% of your armor's health. I enjoy it. I think it's nice. You could drop this if you want to do some block stuff for mitigated protection. Again, since we're running a light shield, I don't really block too much of this build. This one could also be in place of it if you want. It's okay. It just basically makes your fortify last 10% longer on yourself. That's pretty much all it does. So I personally prefer Reinforced Vitality. So that's the flail. Void Gauntlet, fairly standard I think at this point for backbar Void Gauntlet. The only thing is I don't take Detonating Orb, but that's personal preference. So we're running Scream. Really good for the Brute. We get the Fortify from it. If you hit 3 people, you get 10% Fortify for 10 seconds. I do believe this goes away when you switch your bar, though, so do keep that in mind. Pretty much every perk we pick on the Void Gauntlet is to give us either more crit, more healing, or reduce our cooldowns. That's the main purpose of it. And then we come over here, we're running Tether. This is kind of the primary ability of this build. I don't think you can run Void Gauntlet backbar nearly as well without Tether. Basically just weakens them for 20%, empowers you for 20%, lasts for 10 seconds. It will only be, you can only hit one target with it though. Successful hits, Tether target reduce the cooldowns, which is nice. Get extra mana regen. Not necessary, but is nice. And then you get a heal when the Tether ends or if it's broken. And then Orb, this is our main group heal. We just kind of throw it out. We try to hit targets, as many targets as we can with it. It does interact interestingly with the Legendary Void Gauntlet, or the Artifact Void Gauntlet. The first target hit by Orb will get 2 stacks instead of 1 stack of Decay, which is pretty nice. And we just pick up these passives for a little bit of extra mana and a little bit of the slow if they already have a dot on them and stuff like that. So yeah, that is the build.